Good evening, one and all. Boy, this was a scramble tonight. We had some electron difficulties on this end. Not altogether an unheard of situation, but yeah, I was working all afternoon and completely lost track of the time, and yeah, almost missed my own live stream. How's everybody doing? Let me see, who's here? I saw Laura was here, and Gustavo, welcome, and Joseph from Detroit, and early. Good for you, good for you. Proud of you. Good evening, Bud. Bud is one of our moderators, and yeah, he's more than a moderator tonight, because I'm going to be talking a little bit about Bud and something he has done for the channel. We'll get to that in just a few minutes. Good evening, Walter. And let me see. Yeah, damn electrons. That's the truth, Robert. They are just the most unreliable things. It wasn't really the electrons. It was the not leaving enough time to organize the electrons. That was the problem. I was working all afternoon on exciting things, progress for the channel, and everything was going great. And then I looked at the clock and thought, oh my goodness, where did the day go? And yeah, so that's how I'm here. Yeah, it was supposed to be well organized today because I had some nifty things I was going to show you, but as it is, I couldn't even get the camera plugged in time, though I did get the other camera plugged in just in time. I was going to be doing an unveiling tonight of the new microscope camera tube that I've been so excited about and hoping to get my hands on. Well, one showed up, but it was a bit out of my my range. In fact, it was a lot out of my range. It's an expensive piece of equipment, and I can't show it to you because I lack one adapter, a $9 adapter, which I ordered yesterday. And as soon as that comes in, I'm going to give you a guided tour of the whole thing. But I now have the surgical camera tube, the beam split up, everything set up. All I need now is a way to get my camera attached to it, and we're good to go. That was an oversight on my part. I thought I had the necessary adapters, but I didn't. And the reason this involves Bud is it was Bud that made this possible. He heard about the auction where it was being sold and stepped in and purchased it and sent it. So thank you, Bud. That was incredibly generous of you, and I think it's going to make a big difference for us this spring as we start cleaning filthy bugs, and there are going to be plenty of them. So let me see. Phil's here from California. Welcome. And Gilles from Quebec. Is it still snowing up there? No doubt it is. I shouldn't ask until about June, I suppose. And Carlos, you're waving. I'll wave back. There you go. Now, let me see. Do you recommend separation of subject from background? And if so, how far? Depends on the subject. Depends on the background, but most of the time, well, you know, a lot of the time, not most of the time, a lot of the time I use a dark background or a light background, as in a white background, and there the separation doesn't make any difference because there isn't anything on the background to be in or out of focus, so you can't really get focal separation of the two. So yeah, I don't recommend you do or you don't get separation unless you are trying to use it creatively to show distance or to emphasize your subject, or if you're lighting them separately. If you give me a better idea of what it is you're concerned about or what shooting situation you're in, then I can give you more information about whether or not I try to, you know, separation of subject and background in macro photography is kind of beside the point, because if you're using a macro lens or any greater magnification than that, I guarantee you're going to get separation of foreground and background because your background's not going to be in focus. So if you're talking about a very, very close in background at very low magnification, yeah, I have done that both ways, where I've focused the camera at the hyperfocal distance to get the background in focus, and sometimes I'll open it wide up and keep the background out. It depends what you want to do, what you want to show. So not a very good answer to that question, I'm afraid, but there you go. I'll get the bad one out of the way first. Hernando Sportsman's Club, welcome. Glad you came back. And Larry, good evening. And let me see. Bruce, welcome, Bruce. Glad you could make it. Let me see. There are some questions, I'm sure. Amy's here as well. Amy is another one of our moderators. She'll be keeping you in line, you rowdy bunch, you. And, you know, there are fewer than usual viewers tonight, and you're probably wondering why that is. Well, that's because I just realized that I had not put this live stream up for tonight. That happens when I'm very busy and I forget about it. I also forgot to put it up for Thursday, but I'll remedy that tonight. But let me tell you, now as it's on my mind, I want to tell you about something. I've been waiting to get the dates to tell you this, but 2 weeks from now. No, it might be 3 weeks from now. Hang on, let me look at the calendar. It's the first week in April. Yeah, that's right. So it will be, just chat amongst yourselves, because I have to look this up on a calendar to see what the dates are. It will be on the 4th of April. Okay, the 4th of April, which is a Tuesday. I am going to be doing a live stream from Boston. And yeah, I'll be probably, I don't know where I'll be in Boston. Maybe sitting on a park bench. I don't know. If it's still snowing up there, I'll be indoors. But we'll be doing this live stream from Boston. On the Thursday, the 2 o'clock in the afternoon live stream, the European one, which is open to everybody, I'm going to be doing it from Cambridge, Massachusetts, from the Bridge recording studio, where I will be filming and photographing a band record an album. And seeing as I'm going to be there at that time, I asked them if I could do my live stream from there, and they seemed excited about that. So we'll be doing it from the studio. That is on the 6th of April. How about that? Isn't that exciting? So that's what's coming up. So if you don't see the usual announcement about the meeting, then that's why. But you will. I'll put something in Patreon. I'll put something over on Discord, so you'll know. It has just been a hectic week. I've got a lot of stuff going on in this transition that I have hinted at, and I'm still just going to hint at, that with a new website, new programming, new way of doing a lot of things, there is a lot of work to be done, and it's been day and night, and yeah, it does have me a little bit behind schedule on the regular stuff. So I also haven't updated the calendar. I will update the calendar. In fact, I'll make myself a note. I'll update the calendar and put those road trip live streams on there. Today I started remodeling the studio, which included painting walls and things like that. But I only got a short way into it when I realized there was no way I could have it finished for tonight. So I had to undo everything that I had done, which is why everything looks like it's a bit of a mess, though you can't see because I cleaned up the bit that's in the line of the camera. But yeah, it's been hectic. Yesterday, I had a private session with one of my students, also one of my supporters and one of the Patreon members, who asked several good questions, really good questions. And the conversation we had was very interesting and I think helpful to me. It helped me organize my thoughts on a few interesting topics. And I'm going to touch on them tonight. One of them concerns microscope objectives and how do you select a good microscope objective, and you know, what are the features that you're looking for. And there were some interesting points that came out of that conversation. The other thing that we talked about was getting yourself an aluminum lab bench, an optical lab bench, as a base for your macro photography. Is there any point to that? It's very expensive. Is there a reason to do that? Is there a reason not to? And we had that discussion as well. So I'm going to talk about that too. There was something else we talked about that was equally interesting, and I can't remember what it was. I think it was something to do with relay lenses, but I lost my I lost my notes. It'll come to me as we go along. Let me see who else I should say hi to. Oh yeah, Robert was asking, how do you add a gradient behind an image? Well, do you want me to show you real quick? Is anybody interested in that? Let me open up a picture in Lightroom, take it over to Photoshop, and I'll show you. It won't take but a minute. It's a fairly simple thing. If you want to know how an expert does it, you'd need to talk to Bud, but no, we'll talk to me tonight instead, seeing as I'm the one that's here. Let me go ahead and take this picture. It's a picture I took a couple of days ago, and I am going to edit it in Photoshop. Then I'm going to switch the screen so that you can participate in this exciting event. Let me find out where everything has gone here. Bear with me 1 second, guys. Just a little bit of moving stuff around I need to do. Another thing that happened today was I was messing around in my settings on the computer, and I did something to the screens, so they're all in the wrong place. Don't worry about it. Oh, I got it fixed. All right, so you should now see a bug. This is a crane fly that wandered into my parlor rather foolishly. Let's replace the background on this. Now, there are ways that you can do this. There are many ways that you can do this. You don't have to do it my way. I just find my way easier than some of the others. That's why I do it that way. Makes sense? Oh, this is in Lightroom. What am I talking about? This is supposed to be in Photoshop. Let's find out why I didn't get over there. Just a second. Let's try that again. Edit in Photoshop. There we go. And it still hasn't opened. Not to worry. It's going to be one of those evenings, isn't it? It is not opening. Nope. Let me try one other thing, and let me try one other thing to see if I can find it. Nope. All right, well, that was fun, wasn't it? Let's forget about that for right now. I'll keep trying to do it in the background, but I don't know why it's not opening. These things happen. All you do is you use one of the selection tools, either one. I use the select object now, as it's as good as it is. And that'll get you 90% of the way there. I'll select any parts that it forgot. And, okay, it was a Lightroom problem. I just got a message from Lightroom saying that it was the reason it was all messed up. Okay, so there you go. Where was I? Yeah, you select the subject, and then what you'll do is, once you're happy with your selection, I don't really bother refining the selection very much. I just set a mask up and have the mask out the existing background. Then I'll put a layer in underneath the layer I'm working on, so above the background but behind the layer I just did the selection on, and I'll fill it with a gradient using the gradient tool, which you can I'll show you if I ever get this going. But you just pick a couple of colors, and the gradient changes from one side of the gradient to the other, and you can make it linear or circular, whatever you like. And then I just drop the gradient onto the blank layer that I made, And then you'll find out whether or not your edges need to be refined. They almost always do. The mask is never that good. And there's a couple of little tricks that you can use to get a really pretty feathering of the mask so that the background is just perfect. And it only takes a couple of minutes, and it works very well. I'm going to give this one more try. It opened. So should we go do that demonstration now? It did open all on its own. There you go. That's it. So let's go ahead and do what I just talked. Okay, well, there you go. This is exciting, isn't it? Normally you have to turn on your own computer to see this much excitement, but no, you can just watch it all here. Let me see if I can. Oh, dearie me. This is something, isn't it? It's I can't click on the edge to enlarge the picture without clicking on the Lightroom underneath and turning that on. Just ignore me. Let's try one last time. Maybe I'll just leave it where it is. That's what I'll do. I'm going to hit Command J so that we have a second copy of our picture. We don't want one more try. Nope, didn't do it. There we go. All right, fantastic. So what we'll do is we'll select the subject. To do that, pick any selection tool and click on it, and then click on select subject. It'll put marching ants around most of the object. It's missed this whole area down here. It's also missed a hump on the top of the head and this appendage. So we can put all that back in just by painting it in with the quick selection tool like this. I'm just running my pointer over everything I want to select. Now hairs are interesting. If they're you don't have to select every hair, but you can select groups of hairs if you want to be sure to get them. We're going to get them when we refine the mask. But see this big group here? I might see if I can get some of them painted in like that. You know, when you get the hairs painted in, you end up painting in a lot of stuff that you're going to have to remove later on anyway. So we'll hang on, I just lost some stuff there. We'll leave it right where it is. If you need to unpaint something, you just hold down the Option key and paint in the space, and it will remove it from the selection. Let's say we've been around this and done the whole thing very nicely. Then what we'll do is we'll go to the right side, click on the square with the circle in it, create a mask, like so. And then if we turn off the background, you'll see there's nothing behind, and you can see where we missed stuff, but that doesn't matter because we're going to fix it. When you're clicked on the background, click New Layer down at the bottom, the square with a plus in it, like so. And then go to the gradient tool on the left, right there, and you can click on the gradient itself to edit it. Now this one goes from black to dark brown. For the sake of this, we'll leave it there because it's similar to the color that was there in the first place, and it'll make my mistakes easier to fix. And I do that in real life too. So we're going to click OK for the gradient. It's set to a radial gradient, a round gradient. So what I'll do is I'll start my gradient at the center of mass, maybe behind the eye here, and I'll stretch out a line. That will be where the gradient transitions to the second color. Now, this wasn't a great example because it's very dark, but if it had been a lighter color, you'd see the transition about where the end of my pointer was. Now all we have to do is click on the mask over on the right hand side, and we need to refine the mask. That means clean up the mask so that it's letting through what we want to see and blocking what we don't. There are two tools for doing that. They're both brushes. One of them is a white brush and one of them is a black brush. Right now we're set on black. I pressed B for the brush key. So black is going to conceal things. If I take this black brush at a flow of 100 and an opacity of 100 and on normal, then anything I paint should disappear like that. And those hairs just disappear. when I paint over them. We don't want that. So what we're going to use is a selective tool. We're going to use multiply as the blend mode. That means it's going to apply the effect more to the darker areas than to the lighter areas. And when we paint back in the detail that's missing, we're going to use a white brush. I'll hit X to change to the white brush. And we'll drop the flow rate to about, for the sake of being quick here, we'll drop it to about 25%. And that'll make the changes happen a little faster. But when we're using the white brush, we'll use lighten or screen. We'll start with screen and see how that does. Now, when I paint white, it should expose the hairs without removing the background. And that's exactly what it does. So now all I have to do is go all the way around the edges and paint back in the stuff that was there that got selected out. There were hairs up here, I remember. And if you want to see where the hairs are, just turn on the background layer and it'll show you where everything is. And you just go around, paint in what's been painted out, and then at the last step, go back around with the black brush on multiply and paint out any of the old background that you have reintroduced in this step. So that's how you refine the mask. Bud has a much more elegant way of doing it using blend modes than this. This is just the way I've done it for so long that it's my default mechanism, and it works. It takes a while on a hairy beast like this. Does that answer your question? That's how you do it. It gets a bit trickier if you've got a light background or a white background and you're removing and adding back detail, because then you have to use different blend modes. But yeah, for right now, that's the lion's share of it. If you have any specific questions, or especially if this is something you want to learn with me one-on-one, this Photoshop stuff is I think a bit easier sometimes to do one-on-one in a tutorial type setting. Then we can set that up. Let me get back over to YouTube and see what you guys are up to over there. I pressed the wrong button, by the way. That's not uncommon, is it? Here we are. So let me see. There's some questions. What is the gizmo on the top shelf of your bookcase? Oh my God. Which gizmo? Can you see to the top? The gizmo on the right to, yeah, is a slide projector. Then there's a surgeon in the middle, and then an old-fashioned slide projector on the far side, the blue one. Now the next layer down might be the only layer that you can see, has got a darkroom timer in the middle that's wearing a pair of headphones. Oh, that was my knee. Yeah, and a microphone and a camera next to it. So, was that the shelf? Yeah, I think you're probably looking at the darkroom timer. That's the thing that tells you when your pictures have to come out of the bath that you have them soaking in. Yes, walls, painting walls, Joseph. It wasn't meant as a pun. John, welcome from Northern Ireland. Glad you made it. Glad you made it. And let me see. No, I don't look painted. I didn't get any paint out. I didn't even get the paintbrush out. I just had the wall ready to go and put some sandpaper on it. Gary and Arthur, great. Glad you made it. And John, you left me a PM over on Discord. Yes, and I answered it, but not directly. I answered it through a proxy. A friend of mine happened to be over there answering questions and saw your question and answered it for me. So yeah, I didn't realize it was you, but now I know. So you'll find the answer over there. It's already been done. Let me see. Can I drag and drop it in where? Oh no, the picture. No, I tried that earlier on, and I didn't. I can't actually drag my screen from my laptop up onto the big screen, so I can't see my controls for the whatchamacallit. I don't know what's going on with the electrons in my computer. They were reorganized this afternoon when I fixed some things, and I think I broke more than I fixed though. I can't seem to get OBS to stay where it's supposed to be. Doesn't matter. It'll all seem the same to you. Just me confused as usual. All right, let's see. You're skipping OnlyFans for this. Why? What is OnlyFans anyway? It's a film about fans? Like rotary fans? Yeah, I'm as interesting as that, I think. I can't believe you showed up for this. You're supposed to come to the European one. David, late greetings. And you're from Winthrop, Maine, right? It's 4 degrees. There you go. It's your fault. All right. So you have now failed again on getting an EL Nikkor enlarger lens. This is the 4th time you've done this, right? And you keep getting a different lens. Are you buying them from the same shop? And does the man at the shop have hearing aid batteries that need to be replaced? I don't know. I don't know what could possibly cause them to send you the wrong EL Nikkor 4 times in a row. Yeah, and it's the 75mm f4. Oh, that's what you're trying to buy. Okay. I tell you what. I'm not going to read the last part of your comment there. If you get in touch with me through Patreon or over on Discord, I will see if I can help you find the right lens. I can give you the name of a seller that is reputable and should be able to help you. Yes, I do have gremlins in the machine, no doubt about it. Have I had any success retouching stereo images in Zerine? Yes, I have had now plenty of experience with it, and some limited success. I'll be honest with you though, I haven't done it on my own. This has been challenging for me because the workflow is a little difficult, but the knowing when to retouch without understanding fully how the elements in a stereo image are actually in 3 dimensions. When you copy a piece of one image and paste it onto another to fix a defect, you have to make sure that both elements that you're moving and replacing are in the same depth plane, because if they're not, you can do a 2D retouch of an antenna and you can make the antenna look great on the source, on the image that you're retouching. But then when you combine them in the stereo pair, the antenna that you took from the other picture is in front of the one in this picture, depending on how big your separation and how much the image is turned. So you can literally end up with the antenna coming out and then the one you retouched about looking at like it's a foot in front of the other one, and it's just floating in space. This has been plaguing me because you don't know until you build the model whether or not something you're retouching is in the same point in depth. So I've had to rely very heavily on Rick to have him look at some of these pictures before I edit them and then after I edit them and give me feedback. There is really no way other than experience to get good at this, but I've done a bunch now. And I don't know if I showed these. I may have showed these last week. Let me see if I can get back to Lightroom. No, there is definitely something funky going on here with my screens. Let me see one last time if I can get to Lightroom, and I'll show you a couple of the ones that I retouched, and then you can tell me if they look acceptable. I think that these are all glasses, parallels. But let me show you what I've got here real quick. So it doesn't appear to be doing the transition thing. Yeah, there it is. So this stereo pair was retouched, and I did quite a bit of retouching underneath the chin here. Because I was pretty sure everything would be in the right plane, because this one wasn't separated by a whole lot of depth. But then there are others where let me put that on full screen, see if that helps. There are others where the retouching just looked absolutely horrible, but on this one it's hard to see where any of it was done. But you'll see immediately if you're able to put your hands on some glasses and look at this, you'll see that this one doesn't show any of those signs of tampering that you will see with this one. Yeah, it's the same subject, different angle, but this one does have some areas that if you look at it in stereo, you'll see where I messed up the retouch. It's difficult. You need to do a lot of practice, but it just takes doing it over and over and over again. But it was a lot of fun. I'm still doing a lot. I'm also trying to figure out, and I'm not the only person trying to figure it out, getting a handle on just how short your steps need to be to do stereo. Because I've been telling a lot of my friends that I'm down to like 6 microns at 5 times magnification, which is a small fraction of what I normally would shoot at that magnification. But that appears to be overkill, because I've done a series of experiments shooting at every third, every fourth frame and get similar results. So it's a little difficult to know, and part of it is there really isn't an answer. Each photograph is different, and the way it's photographed is different. How it's going to look with different step lengths is going to be different. If the way things are right now, I think I am going to teach myself to err on the side of smaller steps for stereo than I normally use, maybe around 10, which is a lot shorter step, because that seems to be giving good results. So that's the question. I'm not sure if I completely covered it. Let me get to one of the questions that came up yesterday about microscope objectives. The question was, where can I buy a good microscope objective? And my answer immediately went to how limited the selection is for microscope objectives that are good for photography. And that's really what it comes down to. You have to find a microscope objective that is going to give you the magnification that you need, give you a large enough field of view that you can at least film most of the sensor, if not all of it. Something that has good resolution, equal to the resolution of your sensor. Something that has good color correction, either an achromat or an apochromatic lens that has a correction of the different wavelengths of light so that you don't get color fringing. And then that's the key ones. But every one of those characteristics are characteristics that make these lenses highly prized, period. But not all lenses that are highly prized by microscopists are lenses that we would have any interest in. For example, many of the higher magnification lenses have extremely short working distances. So short that they actually stamp on the side of the objective the thickness of the cover slip that you need to use. And the cover slip's 0.17 0.17 inches thick, or is it centimeters, something like that. Very thin piece of glass anyway. Now, just because an objective has wonderful reviews as a microscope objective does not mean it necessarily will be any good at all for photography. And every single one of the features that are prized by photographers come with a price tag. The long working distance or the extra long working distance features of a Mitutoyo, for example, make it a more expensive lens. Anytime you see the letters A, P, and O together in a word on a microscope objective, add $1,000 to the price. And by the time you narrow down all the lenses that are suitable and desirable for a macro photographer to use, for example, that will work with a focal length relay lens that you have, so you don't have to turn around and buy one of them as well. You end up with a precious few lenses that really fit all of those criteria. So, the question, where do I buy it, is, well, pretty much anywhere you want, because there are only a few of them and they all cost the same wherever you shop for them, which is not true. There are some places that you're paying for the privilege of shopping there. Some of the Thor Labs type places, Edmunds, high-end, very fine equipment retailers. You can also pick them up new at places like Microscope Central that are less expensive, that will give you good objectives. But you need to do the shopping before you go and make sure that you're getting something you can use. There are relatively few of them that don't have price tags in the thousands and thousands of dollars, which is why the Mitutoyo is so highly regarded by photographers, because it has all of the features of a $4,000 lens in a $1,000 lens for the 10x, or a $700, $600 lens at 5. So it's still expensive, but it's a lot cheaper than any other apochromatic long working distance objective you'll find. Okay, let me see. Select subject now has a drop down menu. It does? Using the mainframe to select the object. Yes, I've read about that, but I haven't seen it. That's good to know. I'll experiment with it next time my Photoshop is stable long enough for me to try it. Oh, dearie me. Amy reminds you to like me, which is very nice of Amy to say that. But if you don't like me, you don't have to like me. But yeah, press the like button anyway. Yeah, the EL nickel thing is mind-boggling. Yeah, Joseph is right. Last week, the European live stream was made up of people from Detroit, which I consider part of Europe. You don't consider that part of Europe? I do. A fairly depressing part, but a part of Europe anyway. Let me see. Andrew made it. Glad you did, sir. Has everybody entered a photograph for the competition? I am just absolutely seething with anticipation of seeing what you guys came up with. You know what it is, right? It's body part. You have to take a photograph of a body part, and you have to make it decent, and you have to make it look interesting and good enough to win a competition. And if you do, I'm going to give you a lens. I'm not going to give you a lens. I'm going to send you a lens, but you will be given the lens by our donor, who is going to. I think he's graced us with another one actually that I need to get out the box of prize lenses that we have. There's so many of them. Borderland Peppers is back. We've missed you, sir. How have you been doing, my friend? Yeah, it's good you came back. How's your photography going? Hope it's going well. Let me see. No, he wasn't, John, he wasn't suggesting you sign up for Patreon. I think he was just suggesting that if you go over there and message me, I'll get it and I'll answer it. Usually I do. I mean, I may have a couple sitting there now, but yeah, I think that's all he was saying. Anyway, let me see. Joseph, the cover slip thickness is for spherical aberration compensation. Right. Yeah. what he said. That's a good point, by the way. When you're buying, it's not so much an issue with the infinity corrected objectives that we use now, but when when we would buy a lot of finite objectives, the ones that you have to buy for a specific tube length, you could get in quite a bit of trouble if you bought objectives where a large portion of the correction, the color correction, was done in the eyepiece, not in the objective, because the objective would just be passing all of those aberrations back towards the eyepiece where they get fixed. Well, we don't use eyepieces in our setups. We just go straight to the sensor. So that's something that with finite objectives you need to be aware of. If you're like me and you buy objectives wherever you find them at thrift shops and jumble sales, and you've got old vintage lenses and you're putting them on as a macro lens on your rig, you often run into this problem where it's clear that some aberrations haven't been corrected at all. So yeah, it's worth knowing. What was the other thing that we were talking about? The lab table, the aluminum optical table. Optical experiments have to be done on very still, very vibration-free surfaces. And one of the ways that they overcome vibration is they use expensive tables, like the one Graham in the UK bought for his macro setup. They're heavy, they're big, they have massive legs that can be inflated. The legs are pneumatic and they can be used to cancel the vibrations. But another element in the stability and anti-vibration nature of these things is the weight of the table. And a 3 foot by 2 foot aluminum slab that's 1/2 inch thick weighs a tremendous amount. And the more your base weighs for your macro photography, the harder it is to get that base in motion, making it less prone to especially high frequency vibrations. It will vibrate eventually, and it can vibrate with relatively little input, but it takes persistence to set up a kind of vibration that will interfere with your image making. So there is a reason to buy a heavy aluminum table, but it's only as good a reason as what you're putting it on. If you have a rickety table that you do your macro on, and you're buying this heavy slab of metal to overcome the rickety table, if it doesn't collapse the rickety table, you're just going to have a stable base on a shaky platform, and it won't do you any good. So you have to anchor the thing as well as add the weight. If you're going to do that, make sure that your specimen stage is also on that same piece of aluminum. You want to make sure that your any vibrations you do get, or any movement that you do get, is affecting both the camera and the subject. The reason that this comes up is you can save a lot of money by getting a smaller piece of aluminum and just put the camera and your rail and everything on that. And that would put the specimen on a separate, presumably, piece of wood, and that will vibrate just as crazily as the camera would. So yeah, you have to make sure that everything's on the same table. You can buy them in different drilled out sizes depending on where you are and what you need. If I ever get one, it will be just the slab, and I'll drill it out myself, so I have only the holes that I need. I use pylons to put my lights on, but some people don't. The other question he asked was, where can I get those rods from that I use, the metal poles? I take them out of printers, broken printers. A big office printer has about a dozen of them, and even the smallest printers have got 2 or 3 that are as long as the printer is wide, and they're heavy. They're made of steel usually, and some of them are aluminum. But all you have to do, if you don't want to turn any threads on anything, you can just drill a hole in your wooden table, not in your dining room table. It has to be the base that you're putting your rig on, and your spouse has to be okay with this. You drill a hole and then you can pound the rod in and it'll usually stay upright. I cut threads in them and I screw them into nipples that I glue to the table. It sounds more obscene than it actually is. It's a plumbing term. But the end result is I have interchangeable upright posts that I can move. Getting your light where you need it on your subject is the most important thing after having a camera that actually works. Because if you can't get the light where you need it, you can't take pictures the way you want to. And that includes being able to put the lights underneath the subject looking up, or over the subject looking down, as well as from every other position on this imaginary hemisphere around the front of the subject. If you can't put the light everywhere except where the camera is, you haven't set it up right, and you need to be able to do that. So, word to the wise. Having an aluminum table is the icing on top of the cake. Really, it is just that. You still have to make a nice cake, which means using a part of your house that has a poured concrete floor if possible, anchoring your table to a wall or to the floor, doing all of the things that minimize the vibration have to be done first. Otherwise, your aluminum table's a waste of money, and they're expensive. I use a big slab of wood. It weighs almost as much as aluminum, but there you go. So let me see. Other questions. I'm sure there are questions out here somewhere. I missed a couple. Let me see. I think Joseph and David are chit-chatting back and forth. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And Borderland, things are going great. Fantastic. It's good to know. And yeah, Bruce is pointing out, and this is nice of Bruce, because Bruce is a young man, and he's taking care of his elders by saying this. He's saying older participants might not realize that the button is the thumbs up symbol at the bottom of the screen. Is it really? I didn't know that. I thought I really didn't know that for the longest time, but that's what it is. And that's Bruce, young Bruce, telling you old folks that that's what that is. So now you know. How old are you, Bruce? Bruce is of a certain age. Bruce won the photo competition, by the way, last month with the most incredible wasp photograph you've ever seen. Did everybody see it? I've showed it so many times. You must have done. Go to my website. What is it? https:// something or other, www.allanwallsphotography.com. And right there on the homepage, you'll see his drunken wasp. One of the best pictures of the year. Fantastic shot. Loved it. All right. David's asking if any of you folks have ever used gyro stabilization on any of your rigs. I'll answer for everybody, David. No, we haven't done that. I thought about building my rig on a spinning contraption in the middle of the room, and I thought, you know what? If it works, it'll just make me nauseous, and it probably won't work. It'll throw my equipment all over the house. So no, I've never used a gyroscope. Sounds interesting though. Joseph probably has, and he will probably show you how to build one here in just a second. He's read the question already. Good. Oh no, he's asking if it's one of those Greek sandwiches. I think that's a Hero. Delicious though. I haven't had one of those in years. Hero stabilization. You guys are just full of it tonight, really. All right. Oh, Amy has dropped a link to the March contest over on Discord. So if you haven't submitted a picture, do submit a picture because yeah, it's important that everybody do, because Robert's given me these lenses and I'm going to give them away. And this is a 50mm camera lens, an f2 lens from a slide copier. So this is a cracking good lens. I haven't used it yet in reverse. It's a very flat lens. It's like a Nikon equivalent of a pancake lens, but it's beautifully made. I'll do that before I give it to you if you win it. But yeah, you've only got a few more days, so you need to do that. So let me see. You're keeping Joseph. One of you two is keeping your both of your f2.8 50mm EL nickels. Me too. I currently have 2 of the non-Ns and an N. Yeah, definitely it's good to have a backup because that's the most important lens in my bag of tricks. Talking of printers, who was talking of printers? Oh, Gilles was talking of printers. Oh, your Canon Pro 100 has died. Has it really? You need to tell me how it died, because mine has been dead for a while, but I revitalized it after reading an article. Get in touch with me over on Patreon or something and let me know exactly what happened. Have you had it checked by Canon? That's unusual. You hear about a lot of printers going kerflooey, but not those Pro 100s and the Pro 10s. Let me think. Have you looked at the? No, let me think about it, because yeah, I don't know much about printers, but I've got a friend who does, and I'll talk to him and see what your best bet is. Let me see. What great 50mm shootout. Had I promised to do a video on comparing 50mm lenses? Probably. John is saying the 300 Pro is amazing. Right. And, oh, Bruce, you didn't have to actually put the number of your age. You could just have said senior. 83. That's who was was telling the old folks what the thumbs up means. So there you go. Thank you, Bruce. You're a good man. I'm just gonna have to keep out of these conversations, because now there's matchmaking going on. Dearie me. I know you were talking about using gimbals, David. That's just me giving you a hard time. And really, I think that using a gimbal kind of defeats the point, because the gimbal's going to move the camera, and you have to stop the movement to take the picture. And also, if the camera's in different positions with different frames, then you can't focus stack them because your outline will have changed. So there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to use an active correction like that. Even though you're talking tiny distances, it doesn't take much to knock it out of alignment. So let me see. Who am I missing? Whose questions have I left off? Okay, so Gilles got the message from John and is going to check out the new printer. I'd love to hear what you think. All right, let me see. Yep, everybody is now matchmaking for their 90-year-old grandparents, which, there you go. All right, there are actually 5 Nikon 50mm f2.8s, the silver ring, the smooth black ring, the nubbly black ring, the N, and the IL. I've never seen an IL used, says Joe, which means it probably doesn't exist if he hasn't seen it. But I had no idea. And is that not 6? 1, 2, 3. No, that's just 5. I had no idea. No, I know that there were more than 2, but I didn't know that that's what they were called. The silver ring, the smooth black ring, the nubbly black ring, and the N and the IL. What is the IL, I wonder? I don't remember ever reading anything about that. Be interested to know. Now I have three more lenses to add to the list of must-have lenses. Michael, could you discuss short focusing with tube lenses, especially how the shorter tube length is determined? Is it trial and error, or some sort of calculation involved? No, it's not trial and error. and there's no calculation involved. How's that for an answer? Short focus means using a focal length lens that is shorter than the regular focal length lens you would use with that objective. It's shorter than what it's designed to be used with. Say, for example, you have a 120 millimeter lens and you're using a Mitutoyo objective which is made to use with a focal length relay lens of 200 millimeters. So you're using a shorter focal length and it is going to give you less magnification. And the magnification is proportional to the focal length of the two lenses. Now, the question is, how do you know exactly what your physical length needs to be? Well, you set up the physical length the same way you would with a 200 millimeter relay lens. In fact, you set it up the way you do it with any relay lens because you want the lens to be focused at infinity. So what you do is you take your bellows or your extension tubes and helicoid or whatever you're using outdoors, or if you're Joseph, you take them down to the bowling alley in your basement where you can focus at infinity, and you just focus at infinity with nothing but the tube lens. So you have the tube lens on the end of your bellows, you move it backwards and forwards, well actually backwards, until infinity, something at infinity comes into focus. When it does, you know that your tube lens is positioned appropriately to be at infinity right where it is. Mark it and measure it so that you can remember that for future use. So you don't have to keep going down to the bowling alley to do this. And that will be how you set it up. Now, it can be whatever you want. Some lenses, focal lengths, make for good tube lenses, others don't. And that is trial and error, finding the ones that work. I was using what was I using? A 100 millimeter lens on the Mitutoyo 5X. I can't remember. No, I was using the DCR 250, the Raynox lens. The 250, which has a focal length of about 128 millimeters, something like that, which gave my Mitutoyo 5X a magnification of about 2.5, and it's a very, very sharp, no, 3, I beg your pardon, very sharp image. And short focus is fun, but the problem is, of course, the field of view is much smaller, and you get the drop off to the edge with softening can be quite dramatic, and you oftentimes will not get full sensor coverage. So that's how you do it. But the important thing, the answer to your question is you don't calculate it, you measure it. You actually focus it at infinity, and then you measure the distance, and that will always be that for that objective. And oftentimes if you find one that works with that objective, it will also work with other magnifications of that objective. Like I use that DCR 250 with my 20x objective to get about 12.5 times magnification, and it's really nice like that. In fact, some of those pictures are nicer than using it at 20. So there you go. Does that help? No trial and error, just actual measurement. Alrighty, that's the thing about getting the printer to Canon cost $130. That is more than I paid for that printer. In fact, they gave me that printer. There was a rebate on it that paid for everything that I paid for it, and they get you on the ink. That's why they give you the printer. But do let me know what happened, because I'm always interested to know. My printer woes are with this thing behind me, this Epson. My goodness, that thing's been a nightmare. I still can't get it to print out of all of the print heads. They're clogged up and have been since I got them. But the thing's too heavy for me to take back to the shop. I almost gave myself a hernia putting it in here. So there you go. Let me see. Any other questions? What time is it? Does anybody know? Oh, it's 9 o'clock. How about that? This went by too fast because I was ill prepared for it, but I think we covered everything I needed to cover. Have I said thank you to everybody? Have I said thank you to my Patreon supporters? Thank you to the people that support what we do through donations and through helping and all of the kind of stuff that Bud does and Robert and all the friends of the show. I do appreciate it. Thank you to my moderators and the folks that help me in all the other ways you do, especially with things that involve computers. And you know who I'm talking about, Carlos. So thank you for everything that you guys do. And yeah, to the rest of you for watching my videos and coming to the live streams. If you weren't doing that, I'd still make them because I don't know what else to do anymore. But it's nice to know that somebody might be here. Okay? So thank you. And yeah, what are we doing on Thursday? I don't know. But by Thursday I'll know. I know what I'm doing tonight is going and making a reservation for the live stream on Thursday, so I don't have to do it 1 minute before the thing starts again. That was stressful. Okay, let me see. Couple of last minute questions here coming through. The IL is the current version produced by Nikon's industrial division. That's brilliant knowledge. I didn't know that. What does it look like, Joseph? Is it yeah, I'd like to know. It's called a Rayfact lens. Very interesting. Taguchi or Tochigi Nikon still makes the 52.8 because it's a popular lens for machine vision. Does your machine have vision problems? Buy him one of these lenses. That'll clear it up. That is brilliant. Yeah. They also continue to make the legendary UV Nickel 105 and the insane 300 f2. I didn't know that either. You think they'd send me that 300 f2 to play with and write a review on? I bet they wouldn't. I bet they wouldn't even allow me to look at a picture of it if they could control that. Well, look, macro everything around me. I need to speak to you. I need to speak to you. If you can spare the time, go over to Discord and I'll be right there as soon as I hang up here. We'll meet over there now and we'll decide on your prize for the competition. Otherwise, I'll send you something. But yeah, we'll go over there and I'll be there in 2 minutes. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'll see you on Thursday. And yeah, and David, I'll see you at bingo right after I get through at Discord. Take care. Good night. See you again soon.